Welcome to the tutorial on microprocessors and microcontrollers. In this tutorial, I will be discussing about 8051 interrupts. Before going to 8051 interrupts, let us say what are interrupts, why they are required. So we'll see what are interrupts and why the interrupts are required. Then we'll see what different types of interrupts are supported in 8051. Interrupts are basically, these are the mechanism by which we will be able to drag the attention of a microprocessor to certain activity. To be specific, when a microprocessor or microcontroller is executing certain routine in a sequential way, then whenever an interrupt mechanism generates an interrupt, then microprocessor or a microcontroller will leave its regular routine, regular execution, and come to a specific code that is directed by the interrupts. It executes that code and serve the devices, then it go back to its a normal routine. Okay, so there are two different methods of writing a software by which microcontroller can serve the devices. There are different ways of writing a software. How a microcontroller or a microprocessor can give services to I/O devices. Basically, there are two ways: polling method and an interrupt method. In case of a polling method, microcontroller continuously monitor the status of a device until some predetermined conditions are met. When these conditions are met, then 8051 or a microcontroller will serve the device. So here if you look at, it is the responsibility of a microcontroller, especially 8051 speaking here, it is the responsibility of 8051 to check whether the device which is attached to it needs its attention or needs its service or not. If it needs its service, it has to highlight certain conditions. When these predetermined conditions are satisfied, then 8051 will attend to the service of the device. Whereas in case of interrupts, whenever any device needs a service, it notifies the 8051 by sending an interrupt signal, and then 8051 serve the device. So it is a bit a reverse way. So here how this interrupts are, or how this software is written, it will divide into a polling method or an interrupt method. In interrupt method, the responsibility is given to the device itself. Then whenever device needs its service, then it has to notify to a microcontroller. Upon receiving the notification from the device, then the microcontroller will attend to the service of a particular device that it has raised a interrupt. Whereas in case of a polling method, it is the duty of a microcontroller to check whether any device attached to it requires any service or not. So these are two different ways. So let's go in detail about interrupt. So interrupt is basically a notification communicated to the controller by a hardware device or by a software, on the receipt of which controller momentarily stops its regular execution and respond to the interrupt. Whenever an interrupt occurs, the controller completes the execution of current instruction and start the execution of an interrupt service routine, or simply called to be interrupt handler. So ISR or an interrupt handler is basically a piece of code that tells the controller what to do when interrupt occurs. So it is a set of instructions grouped together called to be ISR, and the purpose of this is to do certain tasks whenever a device needs its attention. So microprocessor, upon receiving a notification from the device, it stops its execution, regular execution, and goes to a special code that we call to be ISR or an interrupt handler. It serves that. After serving that or after executing that, again it comes back to the main routine or a main program. Hence, hence you can say that it is the way by which the attention of a microprocessor is dragged towards a specialized code. Then interrupts can be either hardware interrupts or it can be a software interrupt. Then coming to see how the execution of a microprocessor takes place. Here, program execution without interrupts, if there are no interrupts either enabled or there are no devices which is connected to a microcontroller which needs the attention. In that case, what happens with respect to time, if we see, there is a regular execution, continuous execution of a main program from this end to this end. So nothing, say, there is no agent which can interfere in the execution of a main program. Whereas this slide shows that program execution with interrupts. What happens when a microcontroller is executing this main program continuously whenever an interrupt occurs in between somewhere, say in this, when a microcontroller has executed this part of a main code, and assuming at that point some interrupt has generated, then immediately your microcontroller or a microprocessor has to stop here its main program. Then it has to attend a special code called an ISR, interrupt service routine. After executing complete as interrupt service routine, again it has to come back to the same position where it has left. Similarly, further interrupts will be served like this. This is how the attention of a microprocessor is being dragged, and this is how your microprocessor will be serving the IO devices. Okay, so why we need interrupts basically? So this particular scenario will show you that why interrupts are required. Okay, suppose the target is suppose that we want our program to automatically toggle P3.0 port every time timer 0 overflows. The condition is whenever timer 0 overflows, then it has to toggle the information or a bit on first pin of port 3, that is first pin of port 4, you can say P3.0. Right, for that a very simple code can be written here, like jump on no bit JNB TF0 comma skip toggle. If this condition is not met, it will come to this area. If it is met, it will be executing this. You will see the consequences of this simple, though it is a simple code. Let's look at the consequences. Since the TF flag is set whenever timer 0 overflows, the above code will toggle P3.0 every time timer 0 overflows. This accomplishes what we want. But is this code efficient? No, it is not efficient. Let's look at a different perspective. Okay, here what happens? JNB generally takes two instruction cycle to determine whether the flag is set to and jump. Whereas again CPL CLR takes two more instructions. So in addition to take this four machine cycles or instruction cycle, what happens here is your microprocessor continuously will be checking this condition whether this particular condition is met or not. When this particular condition is met, it has to do certain task. When it is not met, it has to do some different task. So your microcontroller will be continuously will be able to or will be monitoring this as a condition whether that condition is met or not. Okay, now let's look at a different thing of interrupts. So here what happens, interrupts lets us forget about checking for the condition. So when we incorporate interrupts, then we need not check whether the particular conditions are met or not. So it is not the responsibility of a microcontroller here to check whether the conditions are met or not. It is up to the device which is being connected to a microcontroller. It has to notify that it needs its attention and certain conditions are met. So here microcontroller itself will check for the condition automatically, and when the condition is met, it will jump to ISR, execute the code, again return back. In this case, subroutine would be nothing more than the following code. It is very simple. CPL P3.0 return RETI. This RETI is return interrupt. Whenever we are writing ISR, at the end we have to write RETI, return interrupt. So it is much easier to read and understand because we don't have to remember to always check whether timer 0 flag in our main program. So we need not check whether the timer 0 flag is set or not. Here it is a responsibility of a timer flag. It is a responsibility of the routine to check whether the things are happening or not. So we just set up an interrupt and forget about it. So 8051 will execute our code whenever it is necessary. So here we just set up an interrupt and we just forget about it. So what happens, and normally 8051 can start its regular execution. So whenever the conditions are met, then the device or an interrupt signal will be generated, and upon reception of this signal, then 8051 will be attending to ISR. Then to be specific with 8051 has 6 hardware interrupts, of which 5 are available to the programmer. So 8051 basically supports 6 types of hardware interrupts. Okay, they are reset, external, timer and serial. Reset is a single interrupt, and we have external interrupt. External interrupt are again of two. They are INT0, INT1. Timer interrupts, again there are two, timer 0 and timer 1. And the serial interrupt is only a single one. So if you look at this, reset is not available to the user, whereas this external timer and serial, they're available to the user. So bit detail about this are here. So reset interrupt, this is also known as power on reset. When it is received, the controller restarts execution from 00 location. So here, whenever this condition is met, whenever reset interrupt is generated, when it is received, the controller restarts its execution from 00. Probably in the previous slides or videos, I have shown that is a reset circuit and all. So it is possible that whenever it receives, whenever it resets, then immediately it goes to 00 location and start executing the code once again. But this particular interrupt is not available to the programmer. So programmer, the person who is writing application software for microcontroller 8051 cannot make use of this particular interrupt. Now the remaining 5 interrupts are timer interrupt, external interrupt and serial interrupt. So timer interrupt, 8051 has two timers. Basically each of them are 16-bit wide. So each timer is associated with a timer interrupt, say timer 0 and timer 1. These interrupts notifies that the corresponding timer has finished its counting. So here these timers, whenever you load a timer to count certain events, then whenever those timers overflow, since we have only two timers, so there will be two different types of interrupts. Maybe say timer 0 and timer 1. Whenever these timers overflow or finished counting, they generate a signal that we call to be timer generated interrupt. Then at that time we can write a routine what has to be done when a timer has finished its counting. Okay, so these are the applications. Then second or third external interrupt, third interrupts are external interrupts. There are two external interrupts, EX0 and EX1, to serve external devices. Both these interrupts are active low. Anyway, we have dedicated pins for this. P3.2 INT0, P3.3 INT1 pins are available for external interrupt 0 and 1 respectively. An external interrupt notifies the microcontroller that external device needs its services. Okay, so whenever external device connected to these pins needs the services, they have to generate certain signal, and upon receiving the signals on these two pins, microcontroller will be executing a predefined code or a special code. Then an external interrupt notifies that it needs a service, whereas the last interrupt is a serial interrupt. This interrupt is used for serial communication. If you want to implement a serial communication between two different devices, then this interrupt has to be enabled, or this interrupt has to be used for. When enabled, it notifies the controller whether a byte has been received or being transmitted. So whenever your microprocessor is under communication with some other microprocessor or a device, then this interrupt, when it is enabled, it notifies whether the byte has been received or it is being transmitted. So this is how these are different types of 8051 interrupts we'll be using. Right, and these interrupts, look at in the broad classification, any interrupt can be classified as a vectored interrupt and non-vectored interrupt. The interrupts which are not having any predefined addresses, they are called as non-vectored interrupts. And the interrupts which are having predetermined or predefined addresses, like in 8051 we have, whenever reset interrupt is generated, it goes to this particular location, and this is predefined by the hardware. And whenever you receive any signal on INT0 pin or at this line, then it is IE0 flag which will be affecting, and it immediately goes to this location. Okay, the control, wherever the control was executing its main routine, upon reception of this signal, it goes to this routine. Then we have to write our ISR code from this address, or we have to write ISR to some other location, some other location. We can keep a jump instruction at this location. Similarly, timer 0, 000B is the address. INT1, it is 0013 is the address. For timer 1, it is 0013. 1B is the address, and for serial communication or serial interrupt it is 0023 interrupts. So these are determined by the hardware, by the manufacturers of a microcontroller, especially 8051. They say whenever these kind of interrupts are being generated, then the controller has to come to this set of code, this set of addresses, and start executing the code from this location. So this is what is the beauty of 8051 hardware interrupts. Then to control whether that particular interrupt needs to be accessed, a particular interrupt need to be served or not, then we have different SFRs in 8051 to control the interrupts. Okay, so we have IE, interrupt enable register. By default, actually, on power up, all interrupts are disabled. So since we have 5 interrupts available to the programmer, all the interrupts, when you reset or you start up a product which is manufactured by 8051, designed by 8051, whenever you give a power supply, all the interrupts are disabled. And if at all you want to enable, if at all you want to control or generate or serve IO devices, then individually you have to enable those interrupts. So it means even if, for example, this timer 0 overflow flag bit is set, then 8051 will not execute the interrupt. Though the timer overflows, then also 8051 will not execute the interrupt. Okay, so our main program must specifically tell 8051 that it wishes to enable interrupts and specifically which interrupt it wishes to enable. So we have a programmer has a flexibility that all these 5 interrupts can be enabled or can be disabled. It is up to the application that we are writing. So this enabling of all the interrupts and controlling individual interrupts will be achieved by a special SFR, special function register of 8051 called interrupt enable register. So interrupt enable register is of 8-bit wide. So it is first bit, it is EXE0, ET0, EX1, ET1, ES and EA. So EA stands for, it is the 8th bit. It disables all the interrupts when EA0 is say it basically it controls all the interrupts. When EA equal to 0, no interrupt will be acknowledged, and when EA equal to 1, it enables all the interrupts individually. So if you want to enable all the interrupts, give here 1 and all the interrupts will be enabled and individually you can control now. So here if you give 0, then none of these 5 interrupts will be enabled or they will be giving any service. Okay, so next flag is ES, enable or disable serial port interrupt. So it is now our say individual communication. Now if you say if you want to disable serial interrupt, then give here 0. If you are giving 1 here, then your serial interrupt will be enabled. Similarly, ET1 is enable disable timer 1 overflow flag. So this is for timer 1. You see that timer, whenever timer 1 overflows, and upon overflowing, if at all we want its routine to be executed, then this particular bit has to be enabled. We have to make it logic 1. Then interrupt 1 overflow will be recognized. Similarly, EX1 enables or disables interrupt 1, INT1, and even upon receiving a certain information on INT1, if it is made as a 0, then also microcontroller 8051 will not attend to the interrupt service of a particular device. Okay, so in order to in order to notify 8051, we have to make 1 here, and similarly a timer 0 and INT 0. So what happens here? We have to enable this. If you are making this as 1, then only this individual interrupts can be enabled or disabled. Whereas if you are making it to be 0, no interrupt can be enabled afterwards. Okay, so once you make this as 1, then this can be enabled, disabled. The serial interrupt can be enabled, disabled. Timer 1 overflow can be enabled, disabled. Then external interrupt 1 can be enabled, disabled. Then timer 0 interrupt can be enabled or disabled, and external interrupt INT0 can be enabled or disabled. So this is how we will be able to control the operations of interrupts. Then when assuming then when all interrupts are enabled and all have generated, their signal. So what happens? So in order to solve that issue, when multiple interrupts come at the same time, then we have a priority. So it is, these are the priority on a reset. So whenever you reset or bring a power supply to 8051, these are the priorities that these internal interrupts are, or these interrupts have. Okay, so first priority is external interrupt 0. INT 0 has the highest priority. Then next priority is for timer 0. Then third priority is for interrupt 1, INT 1. Then fourth priority is timer 1. Then the last priority is serial interrupt. So when two or more interrupts arrives, 8051 queues them according to the priority. So 8051 doesn't say that will not service, but what happens depending upon the priority, and assuming that this external INT 0 and this timer interrupt have arrived at the same time. So what happens now, as microcontroller 8051 will keep in queue these two interrupts, and immediately it serves this interrupt. After serving this interrupt, it goes to this interrupt. Or again, take an example of serving this TF0 and TF1. When these two interrupts are enabled, and assume that these two interrupts come at the same time, so it is a TF0 or this timer interrupt 0 will be serviced first, and later this timer 1 service will be fast. So this is achieved by setting see, okay, then 8051 has a facility to change the priority. Now what happens, these are the predefined one. When you give power supply, 8051 follows this one if you are not taking anything into consideration. But 8051 gives us a facility to change even the interrupts. Say for example, if these two interrupts arrive at the same time, you can change its priority. You can say no, you have to execute this first, then execute this later. So it is possible to change the priority dynamically in the application by enabling or disabling certain bits in a special SFR. The special SFR we call it to be interrupt priority register. So this is achieved by setting or resetting the bits in interrupt priority register. So there is a dedicated SFR of 8051 called it to be interrupt priority, which will modify the existing interrupt priorities. Okay, let's look at this SFR. Okay, so here PX0, PT0, PX1, PT1, this is PS. So it is priority of serial communication, priority of timer 1, priority of INT1, priority of timer 0, priority of INT0. So here it defines the serial port interrupt priority level. Then say 0, when I give 0, it is a lower priority. When I give 1, it is a higher priority. So here by making use of this IP register, interrupt priority register, I will be able to, or we will be able to change even the priority conditions also. Okay, yeah. External interrupt activation level. So 8051 has different types of activation level. Okay, so external interrupts has two types of activation level. First activation level is edge triggered. That means, what do you mean by activation level? The activation levels are, these are the conditions which are seen on the external pins. So what condition will define, or what condition will decide that interrupt has to be generated? Okay, if I am putting 5 volt on certain pin, can interrupt be generated? Or if I am putting -5 on particular pin, can interrupt be generated? Or if I give 0 on certain pin, can interrupt be generated? So these are different activation level. So here the supported are edge triggered activation level or level triggered activation level. In case of a low level triggered operation, say a triggered activation level, whenever a low level is detected on INT0 or INT1 pin, while global or external interrupts are enabled, 8051 jumps to ISR. So here what happens, that if low level is detected on these two pins, that is INT0 and INT1 pin, when low level, that is a low voltage is detected, then and taking condition whether these interrupts are enabled or not. If the interrupts are enabled and low voltage is detected on this pin, then 8051 will jump to a specific ISR. Then falling edge triggering. Here, whenever falling edge is detected on this INT0, INT1, when while global or external interrupts are enabled, 8051 jumps. So, what is the meaning of falling edge? When your signal, a clock period is going from 1 to 0, That means when it is coming from 5 volt to 0 volt, that transition period is called as a falling edge. If the falling edge is being detected on this pin, these two pins, then interrupt will be generated. Okay, so these are there are four flag bits, lower four flag bits of TCON register required to select and monitor external interrupt type and ISR status. So it is possible to even configure what type of triggering can be used in 8051. So that will be done through a TCON timer control register. Lower 4 bits of TCON register will be used to achieve this part. Let's look at only the lower part of this TCON register. The lower part of TCON register is IT0, IE0, IT1, IE1. So what happens here? IE1, external interrupt 1 edge flag, set by the hardware basically when interrupt on INT pin is occurred, and clear by the hardware when interrupt get processed. So here this will be set by a hardware. So whenever an edge detected on this, it has to and say this will be configured by the hardware, and whenever interrupt occurs, then again it will be cleared by the hardware. Whereas IT1, this bit selects external interrupt event type. Now, what type of event has to be seen so that interrupt will be generated. If you give one here, interrupt this sets the interrupt on falling edge. When you are giving this bit as 1, when you are giving this as a 1, it will say hardware will be checking this. Okay, whereas this IT1 here, if you give 1, then interrupt will be generated when there is a falling edge, and if you are giving 0, then interrupt will be generated on low level. So what type of activation level will generate an interrupt will be decided by these bits. Similarly, IT0 also, what type of voltage level or triggering level will has to be there on INT0 so that interrupt will be generated will be decided by this IT0 pin. So here say if you are sorry, IT0 bit, here whenever you are making it as 1, then a falling edge on this pin will generate interrupt, and if you are making it as 0, then a low level will generate an interrupt. Okay, so this is how using timer control, that is say TCON SFR, we will be able to control even the activation level of interrupts in 8051. Okay, so let's go to we'll see how we can write interrupt service routine and the hardware. Okay, so assume the scenario here assume that INT1 pin is connected to a switch that is normally high. Assume this is INT1 pin where I am connecting to a switch, and normally it is high because it is connected to plus 5 volt. Whenever it goes low, whenever the switch is closed, it should turn on LED. Whenever this is what is a condition to be met. Okay, whenever this is pressed, then LED which is connected to the fourth pin of port 2, that is P1.3, should be it should be on. Okay, so LED is connected to P1.3 and is normally off because the default voltage is also high on all the pins of ports. So then when it is turned on, it should stay on for a fraction of second. So whenever this key is pressed, then on pressing it carries logic 0 or low level, and interrupts get generated. Then this LED should be on, and this should be on for few seconds or some predetermined amount of time. So as long as the switch is pressed, the LED should stay on, and continuously when it is being pressed, then it should be continuously on. So pressing the switch will turn the LED on, and if it is kept activated, LED stays on only continuously, it will be on. Okay, so let's look at a piece of code here. Here ORG00, long jump to the main is here. It bypasses the interrupt vector table. So what happens, since we have configured that is INT1, so the address for default address for INT1 is 0013. So here what is done, this is our main application. Immediately here you have to write a different code here. So immediately it has to jump to this particular routine ORG00 ORG0030 basically. So move IE, this interrupt enable. So enable different, enable external interrupt INT1 here. Then this is for continuous loop. short jump here, it comes here only, stay here until interrupted. So this is infinite loop here, and unless and until certain low level is detected on this, the control will not go out of this. So when it is getting low level, that means when you are pressing a button here, what will happen when you are pressing a switch, the low level is detected on this pin. When low level is detected on this pin, immediately the control goes to 0013. It is an ISR. So you can start writing ISR from here. You can say 00 ORG 0013. Then set bit immediately. Set bit, this one P1.3. Turn on LED. Then move R3 comma hash 255. This just load a counter. Go on decrementing this counter until it becomes 0. Then again turn off this LED. So once upon pressing once, it will put on this LED, and that LED will be on for this much of period. Then again it will come back to the original program where it has left. So it left from this place, and upon completing this interrupt service routine, this is required to be an interrupt service routine, and on the last instruction on in ISR is RET1. So it return from interrupt. Okay, so again it so comes back to this particular location. Okay, so now look, I'll explain about how we can do this using Kyle software. Okay, so go to Kyle Microvision, double click that, then come to project, say new Microvision project, give the name of the project. Here assume it is INT1 key, KEY. Just say save. Your project will be created with this name. Then you have to select the device for your project. Say go to generic. Yes, come down. Go to generic. Then select 8051. Say OK. Yes. Say copy this. Say yes. Yes, overwrite. Yes. Say. Then come to this target one. Just go to target one. Right click it. You will get this options for target one. Click that. You see here 12 megahertz should be the frequency. Then go to output option, then select check this create hex file so that we can get hexadecimal code file also. Yes, your project is created now. So what we have to do, we have to write an application. So go to file and say new. So this is the place where you can write your code, or just you can copy. So I have copied here the text code that just I have shown in the previous slide. Then go to save. When you are saving, then give the file name dot extension. Extension should be .asm. Then int1 key now code. Okay, then .asm because it is assembly code. Say then now save. Now you can see the changes in the color here. The color of the text is changed. Yes, this is an ISR basically. Okay, now your file is, this is a main program. Okay, this is predefined address. This port 1 I'm using. Okay, now the file is being created. So we have to add compile this. So it will not get compiled because we have not added to the target as a project. So add a file, then which you have created now. Yes, it is int1 key code. So come down where it is. Yes, it is int key. Yeah, select add this. Then your code is added now. You can see the left side. Now close. Once you're closing, then you come to this. Say translate. Compile now. Yes, now you can see there are no errors and no warnings. Then I can say translate or build all. Then yes, it has no errors and all. You can see how your code is generated. Now you go to, yeah, debug mode, say evaluation mode. Yes, say it is of 2 kilobyte wide. Yes, yes, now you are into debug mode. Come to the ASM code. Now you see we have to see which ports we are using. We are using P1 port, right? Go to peripherals, select P1 port where LED is connected. But since we are dealing with interrupts, interrupt is there on third port, P3 is fourth port. So it is, yes, resize here, keep just side by side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the bit which is for interrupt. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the bit where we have connected LED. Okay, so depending upon the conditions on port 3, yeah, you can go to execute, step by step execution, execute it. Yes, it is here. Then you can, yeah, it is continuous loop, it is an infinite loop. Come out of that. Yes, now I have pressed the key, so that condition is generated now. Again, once you, yes, go to step, now see it has come to the set bit P1.3, the control. Then when you execute this, yes, then you can see, then come out of this loop. Yes, it comes to the main loop. Then again execute, see that is the bit is changed on port 1 also. Then again execute, once again this you can see again changed. So from 0 to 1, 1 to 0 will be changed. Again you come out of this loop and it is continuous. Once again you press, because it is in pressed condition, so it will be continuously. Yes, press this, it comes to set bit again. Yes, when you execute this again, it will be toggling. So yes, again come back out of that loop. So the step by step goes. Now it will be 1. Yes. So this is how we will be seeing how interrupt also can be seen in 8051. Yes. Okay. Yes. Now we'll see that how we can interface ADC and DAC in the coming lecture. Thank you. Thanks for listening.